Hey, what up, everybody? Steviebreech coming to you. I made that video earlier today. That was basically before I watched Monday Night Raw when I was just geeking out like a mark. All I had really done was just sort of follow Raw on Twitter through various people that I follow and stuff like that. And it's one way to get me through the day and sort of check out and see what's going on. Sometimes I'll stay all the way completely away from Twitter if it's a big Raw. But tonight I was just sort of following along and I was marking out. It was one of those Raws where I sort of wish that I wouldn't have noticed what was going on, but sometimes you just can't stay away, even though you know it's going to be a good one. But man, I was marking out pretty freaking hardcore, and I don't even really care. Who knows about it? I didn't know that I could be that big of a mark without being without watching the show. But now that it's all said and done, um, I guess, you get Eve, starting out, turning heel on Ryder and Cena, and right then, that's when I sort of flipped the switch, and I was like, "Oh, fuck. This shit's not done yet." But maybe that's just the storyline progression of Eve and Zack Ryder. We can see where that goes from there. We didn't get to see any Kane tonight. But John Cena, who, came out early in the show, came back out, and he was just spitting fire on that mic. He was cutting The Rock down big time. That is honestly one of the greatest Cena promos I have seen of all time. I don't think I don't think I've seen him like that ever. And as everybody knows, I'm pulling for Cena, and the stuff he was saying is like he's been in the Skype calls with me and Luke Cage, where we just been going back and forth on Cena versus Rock over and over again. It's like he's just using every argument out there, and like he said, like The Rock's got all the guys, writes his promos and writes his funny jokes, but that he's gonna have something to fire back with next week. So this is nowhere near over. I've heard that Rock's gonna be on as many as 4 Raws going in there. I was honestly very surprised that we didn't see him via satellite tonight somehow with the pre-tape promo. But I mean that's gonna make Portland next week even more special. I don't know how they're all over the West Coast, but they didn't come here to Sacramento. But we just got that house show a couple months ago, so maybe that's why. But damn, I wish they were somewhere around here on this trip to Mania. But a lot of the stuff's getting all booked up, all the main event stuff. Like I said, I really want to see what comes together for the undercard, even though a little part of me doesn't care. More than likely, using last night's elimination chamber, maybe we'll get some sort of a 6-man tag, something like that to put a whole bunch of guys on there and not have them have to come out there in the pre-mania battle royal with the superstar NXT guys and all those other guys. But man, this shit looks good, and I'm so glad that I'm going. If you watched my Mania videos last year, I had my little Brett Favre retirement speech at the end, and said that this probably would be the last Mania, and then one thing led to another, and I thought I was gonna um, scrape together a trip on a few pennies, and I was gonna go with a few people out there, and just sort of see how I could do it. And then all of a sudden, I don't even know what happened. I went all in around July, and I went in on this trip with yeah, yeah, and Salt and Battery 777, and we're sitting somewhere way up close, and now there'll be a Hell in the Cell dangling over our head all night long, and shit. This is gonna be good. You don't want to miss this. I mean, Raw tonight was great. I remember, it was really made famous by like listening to the Billy and Bob podcast last year. I don't know what happened to that, but that was one of the best podcasts out there for wrestling. That was continuous. A lot of people say that yeah, yes, podcast is pretty good, but that's honestly the one that from people that I know. I mean, that's honestly one of my favorite ones that there was to listen to. But they always talked about how, from Rumble to Mania was, WWE's time to shine, and they were, that's if you're not even a WWE fan, or if you're not really a wrestling fan, that that's the time to come back, because that's when it's going to be hitting on all cylinders, and they're not going to feed you any crappy shows. And I honestly thought that January and February was a big pile of shit, and I wasn't scared for Mania. I knew that Mania would come through and it'd be good. You can't screw up Rock and Cena, no matter what else you put out there. That would be really hard to mess up. But I honestly was a little bit of me getting scared, and then, then I hit the switch, and I said, "This shit's gonna be good when they put together Undertaker and Triple H." Um, I'm gonna save that for a different, video. I think I'm gonna make a video of that on my own, but Raw tonight was really, really good. Look forward to me making a video on Triple H and Undertaker. But damn, this is what it's supposed to be like, and I understand why it's not like this all the time. But Raw tonight was pretty fucking badass.